Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. I got this email from Kathleen Baber. I hope that's how it's pronounced. Subject line, I don't know if you've seen it. It's about whether Joseph Smith's original plans for Adam-on-Amen will still be built. And then she provides a link for a YouTube video. We're going to do 3 things in this video. Number 1, I'm going to address this YouTube video. Number 2, we're going to look at the Church of Christ temple lot. They're the ones that own the temple lot in Independence, Missouri. I found a couple interesting things out about them that I want to share with you. And then number 3, we're going to look at Community of Christ. They're the ones that have a lot of the other temple land in Independence, Missouri. They're the ones that have the spiral temple because I have some updates from them, which are really interesting to look at. Okay, so why do I have this blacked out? It's because I don't like contention and I don't like name dropping. And this isn't meant to be an attack on the people that made this video. Essentially, it's 2 LDS scholars, and I respect scholarship. I respect their expertise and their in-depth knowledge. But when it comes to doctrine and prophecies, we get that information from prophets, apostles, the leadership of the church. Like in science, what you do, you come up with a hypothesis, you go out and test it, you record your observations, you write up a paper, you get it peer reviewed, and that's how science is done. And that's how it should be done. That's how we learn about certain aspects of reality. But when it comes to spiritual things, it comes from the Lord directly to his prophet. All doctrine that we have, all of it, has come through a prophet, whether it was an ancient prophet in the scriptures or modern prophets. So I was kind of shocked by some of their conclusions about the church's future in Jackson County because they were saying, no, we've been excused. And there was just like so much to say, but I don't want to focus too much on everything that they said in the video. Let's just do this first part and then move on to Church of Christ temple lot and then Community of Christ. There's some interesting things to show you. So first, this whole idea that we've been excused, we haven't. And I don't know. I mean, they're scholars and I don't know how much they've researched it. You think that they would before making the video. But if you just go to the church's website and you go to Gospel Topics and Questions, and you search the word Zion, it says right here, the New Jerusalem, which will be built in Jackson County, Missouri. It's on the church website. It's in this Doctrine and Covenants student manual, published in 2001. Jackson County continues to be designated by the Lord as the location for the city of New Jerusalem. We also have President Nelson. He's published it twice. I'll just go with this one. This is from his book called Daily Joy, published in 2020. And he talks about New Jerusalem in Jackson County. On top of that, you have all these prophets, Lorenzo Snow, and then apostles too. Orson Pratt, Brigham Young. It's been published in the Church News. Elder Bruce R. McConkie. Marion G. Romney, and it goes all the way back to Joseph Smith and Brigham Young. It's pretty clear that throughout church history, Jackson County is still the plan. And we were excused at that time from building the New Jerusalem temporarily, but it's not permanent. And it's not permanent because Jackson County is the site of the Garden of Eden. That's why it's going to be the New Jerusalem. And that's why it's not going to be changed. It's because of the significance of the fact that it's where the Garden of Eden was. One last thing before we move on to the next tab. I like how President Joseph Fielding Smith said it in Doctrines of Salvation. This is in volume 3. Nearly 100 years have passed away since the site of Zion was dedicated and the spot for the temple was chosen. And some of the members of the church seem to be fearful lest the word of the Lord shall fail. Others have tried to convince themselves that the original plan has been changed and that the Lord does not require at our hands this mighty work which has been predicted by the prophets of ancient times. We have not been released from this responsibility, nor shall we be. The word of the Lord will not fail. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if they just didn't research this thoroughly, but there's a plethora of information, and this comes from authorized sources. One thing that they said was something to the effect that, well, the scriptures say, and they were pointing to one verse and how they interpreted the verse, ignoring other things. Like the Lord also said that, well, let's see, Zion shall not be moved out of her place in Doctrine and Covenants 101. There is none other place appointed than that which I have appointed, and so on. So they referred to the scriptures as though that was like the end of it, ignoring all the living prophets and apostles that have confirmed that it is going to be, that the New Jerusalem is going to be built. So I'm not going to go through all these. You can do this if you want. This is my spreadsheet called Quotes, Common Misconceptions, and there's a bunch when it comes to the New Jerusalem. But let's move on. We're going to go to President Alvin R. Dyer's book called Refiner's Fire. He was a member of the first presidency with a very special mission that had to do with the lands in Missouri specifically. That's why he became a member of the first presidency. He did a lot of stuff there, but let's just read a little bit from here. The cities of Zion, plural. The Plat plan, which is this one right here. This is what New Jerusalem was supposed to look like with its 24 temples in the middle. The Plat plan already referred to with regard to the temple complex also provided for places of residence for the saints who would occupy them. 1/2 acre is allowed for each dwelling unit. The entire city, when filled, will contain 15 to 20,000 people. As explained in the side notes, when the city is filled, it will serve as a pattern or multiple for others. Quote, lay off another in the same way, and so fill up the world in these last days, and let every man live in a city, for this is the city of Zion, end quote. Okay, now listen to this, because the email was talking about Adam-on-Diamond right here. And this is what he says. Such will be the cities of far west, the city of the Zion of God, so New Jerusalem, and Adam-on-Diamond, where in that part of Missouri, to the north of the city of the New Jerusalem, cities have been laid out and consecrated to the Lord with temple sites dedicated. Okay, so yes, it is the plan. Again, I don't know how things went awry with this, but yes, that is still the plan. And I would look to prophets and apostles and general authorities of the church before looking to anybody else. And they have confirmed this so many times. So many times. Okay. Now, let's talk about Church of Christ temple lot. Okay. There's supposed to be 24 temples. Now, we've talked about on this channel that the Independence Visitor Center was built to be one of these temples. They built it according to the specifications, like the dimensions that were revealed for these temples. And you can find those dimensions on, this is the revised city plat, but the first one, the first draft, you find it there. They built the visitor center to currently be used as a visitor center and later to be turned into one of these temples. And it seems to me, when you look at the geography, it's probably going to be this one right here, number 13. And it seems to me that the primary temple, the first one that would have been built, is temple number 11. And this is the land that the Church of Christ temple lot owns. Okay. So we're going to go to University of Virginia's Mormon Studies website. And this is the David O. McKay diary excerpts. And you scroll down and you have all these different topics. We're going to look at this one, Missouri. And just if you look at this, it's extremely clear. That's like what this whole section is about preparing for the second coming. So I'm just going to read. These are highlights from a previous video, but let me just read some of this. He references the book Refiner's Fire, and then it says, "What we are witnessing in Missouri is the beginning of the preparations to fulfill the revelation from the Lord in the commandments concerning the center place of Zion." Later on, let's see, the preliminary way for the beginning of the preparations of our people for the return to Jackson County. So, by the way, this is 1968. This was during President Alvin R. Dyer's time, his special mission as an apostle and as a member of the First Presidency to do this. Because before this point, he was a mission president there in Missouri, and he was part of like these historical societies. So he was like his subject matter expert when it came to these sacred lands in Missouri. So President David O. McKay tapped him to purchase land to renovate the far west site where the temple, the cornerstones are, and where it's going to be built in the future, and also to build the Independence Visitor Center, a future temple. Okay. It goes on. Realistic nature, the building of the waste places, and the preparing of things incident to the second coming of the Lord, who will live and reign upon the earth, with the administrative headquarters centered in the temple complex in the city of New Jerusalem, in the center place of Independence, Missouri. So, you guys, I don't know what to tell. I don't know how this happened. I tend to think that sometimes, like if you become a scholar, there's a danger that you stop believing in the more literal aspects of the gospel. That you kind of like start to spiritualize everything, and you don't believe in these like literal things, or you can't see yourself how it's going to happen. But we should trust in the Lord rather than men's reasoning, right? Okay, so continuing. So this is talking about the dedication of the Independence Visitor Center. So, okay, Church of Christ Temple Lot. We were honored, of course, by the presence of civic and local church leaders, among whom were the following apostles: Anderson, Wheaton, and Sheldon of the Church of Christ Temple Lot. So they were invited to the Independence Visitor Center. No, actually, this was the groundbreaking. The mayor of the city of Independence, the acting city manager, and Apostle Wheaton of the Church of Christ Temple Lot participated with the general authorities present in the actual turning of the soil in the concluding part of the program at Independence to mark the groundbreaking for the erection of the Visitor Center. Okay, later on, by prearrangement with Kenneth Midgley of the Kansas City Stake High Council as our chauffeur, we were driven back to Independence, Missouri, where we had a delightful visit with some of the leadership of the Church of Christ Temple Lot in their little white chapel. Here it is right here. This was back March 29th of 2024 when me and my family went up to Kansas City to check out the church sites. This is the white chapel being referred to, and this is the Temple Lot. And across the street, you got Community of Christ Spiral Temple, and then over there, our church's visitor center, a future temple of the 24 temple complex. And then you got Community of Christ's auditorium, which is like their conference center. Okay, so some of the leadership of Church of Christ Temple Lot in their little white chapel at the high point of the temple land. There was a very friendly atmosphere. Apostle Anderson, who will be 98 years of age in December of this year, asked that his love and best wishes be conveyed to President McKay and to encourage him to hold on, and they would both yet reach 100 years, which in the case of President David O. McKay, he didn't, but President Nelson did reach 100 years. We also saw the new monument that had been placed by this church honoring the prophet Joseph Smith. Apostle Wheaton spoke of reading my book, The Refiner's Fire, which had visibly affected him, in that he had thought that perhaps there would be only one temple built, but now he could see that there would be more than one. But he still felt that the main one would be built upon the land which they held. I don't think that they accept that now, but anyway, obviously he would have learned by reading Refiner's Fire that there's this original plan for the city of Zion, New Jerusalem, and they only have this lot for the first temple. Okay, so there's that. Okay, with this one, I'm actually going to start right here. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit repetitive. I said to the president that I felt that the leaders of that church, who are getting old, were concerned about the 2.5-acre plot of land, which is part of the temple land, which the Hedrikites had been awarded in a temple lot suit with the reorganized church. That's what the Community of Christ used to be called, the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That they were concerned as to what has become of the land after they were gone. I expressed a feeling to the president that we should make an effort to increase our relationships with them in the hope that we might be able to obtain this property, and suggested that President Smith and I return there again and take with us, if the president was willing, an invitation from him for Apostles Anderson and Wheaton and others, if they desired to respond, to attend the October conference of the church as the guests of the church. President McKay was very enthusiastic about this and said that this should be done and that he would be happy to extend the personal invitation to them to come. He said that we should make this trip by all means and to make every effort to obtain that property. So that's kind of interesting. The church has made efforts to get the temple lot back, and it's going to happen at some point. As far as I know, these would have been like the first attempts. I'm not aware of any others, but I'm not a historian. But I'm going to start to like save these quotes and do my own research. But it's interesting that back then they would have been concerned about the RLDS church at the time trying to take the temple land away from them. But I don't think that would be the case today, because they have really moved away from some of their original beliefs. Like nowadays, it doesn't really matter so much to them about being in independence or the more literal aspects of what they used to believe. Back then, yeah, they probably would have tried to get that land, but nowadays things have changed. As far as I can tell, Community of Christ has become a much more watered down version of what they once were when it comes to their literal beliefs. So that's I think an interesting change from 1968 until now. Okay, there's a few more things. President Dyer reported that we had as visitors to the conference 8 of the apostles of the Church of Christ Temple Lot and 5 of their wives. He said the reaction that came from them was quite interesting. While he did not know yet how to evaluate it as to how effective it was, he felt that a great deal of good was accomplished. Apostle Yates, he said, expressed the feeling that this was a great step forward in that it cemented to a greater degree the friendships of the two churches. Apostles Hausnecht of Wisconsin said he had never been treated so well anywhere or at any time, and this seemed to be the general reaction of these people. Apostle Wheaton, who is senior apostle, said that he felt that, now listen to this, this is interesting. He felt that anytime the church wanted to come back to independence and build a temple upon their property, there would be no questions or problems. Now, I don't think that that's the case today. I'm about to show you why, because we have some more recent updates on this issue. But it's kind of interesting how things were going back then. So this was 1969. But look at like what was going on there. And, I'm no historian as to the relations between our church and their church, but at least back then things were looking pretty good. And I wonder how serious he was about this. At any time the church wanted to come back and build a temple, they could. I mean, that's just interesting. So let's do this. Let's skip forward to this. This is Fox 4. This is like the Kansas City area. 3 faiths around Independence Land where many believe second coming will occur. This was published, of all years, this was published October 29th of 2018. President Nelson's first year as president of the church. And toward the end of this, when asked by Fox 4, elders with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints said they're not trying to acquire the temple lot ground. But Sheldon said there have been inquiries as recently as this year. He insists it's not for sale and lives each day keeping his mind ready for the second coming of Jesus Christ right here in Independence. And Sheldon is firm on the question of whether his church would ever sell the temple lot ground to the larger Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Quote, "It ain't happening, never will happen." End quote. So I guess it doesn't say, who made the inquiries. All we can do is just take their word for it. But somebody, according to Sheldon, made an inquiry in 2018. And maybe this statement by the church was misunderstood by Fox 4, or who knows. It'd be interesting to find out if President Nelson had directed whoever to make an inquiry. We know that President Nelson, he's done a lot of stuff since he became president of the church. Under his leadership, the Kirtland Temple came back into the church and other church sites as well. It wouldn't surprise me. So before we move on to talk about Community of Christ, let's take a look at Church of Christ Temple Lot. Let's talk about their size. The most recent thing that I can find about how large their church is from this. This is from their, it's kind of like their version of the Ensign, but it's more of just like a newsletter called Zion's Advocate. And this one's from July and August of 2013. The Church of Christ has 7,310 members, with 1,909 of them found in the United States. So it's a pretty small church. I mean, they are about 5 times smaller than my audience, which is just it's mind blowing. So they're not very big at all. This is from their website, churchofchrist1830.org, where you can kind of see where they're at on a map. So you have like the United States over here, and then they have a presence in mostly Mexico, Honduras, maybe El Salvador right there, and then Kenya, and then the Philippines. So just very, very, very small. Here's their website. It doesn't seem like it's too up to date. Like they still haven't changed it to 2025 down here, but I don't know. We're just a few weeks into the year, so maybe they just haven't gotten around to it. But when you explore around, there's certain parts of the website that don't work. Like when you go to Zion's Advocate, the one that I was just looking at came up in a Google search, but when you go to the church's website, this is what you get. So I don't know if they need some website maintenance or what's going on. Here are their apostles right here and their church leadership. There's other parts of the website that do work, but other parts that don't. Upcoming events right now, there are none. So I try to find some other Zion's Advocate PDFs and stuff, and I haven't been able to get a better number of how big they are right now. But their size could play into this as to how soon the temple land would become available, because I wouldn't be surprised if they are experiencing the same difficulties as Community of Christ. Community of Christ sold the Kirtland Temple and other assets to us because they're struggling with the youth and the young adults that aren't paying tithing. It's like the older generations that are paying tithing. And you have more and more people that are leaving the church, going non-denominational or agnostic or atheist or whatever. So they're basically disintegrating and their revenue stream is drying up. And so that's why they sold the Kirtland Temple. Well, Church of Christ Temple Lot is way smaller than Community of Christ. Community of Christ is about 250,000 members. And we just saw that Church of Christ Temple Lot is only about 7,000, at least back in 2013. I'm not sure how much more they've grown since that time, but it probably can't be that drastic. So I would imagine that they might have a harder time staying afloat, but I mean, what do I know? They have a YouTube channel, 275 subscribers. There's not a whole lot going on here. They do have like this other website where you actually can go through this archive of Zion's Advocate, but it only goes till 2019. So it's like stuff like this, like their website, how it seems like it's not being properly maintained. And then this only going to 2019. Like, I don't know, maybe things are kind of grinding to a halt. We'll just have to kind of see and keep our eyes on it. So, but just like the Kirtland Temple, I mean, any time there could be an announcement that, they decided to sell the temple lot. I mean, who knows? You really can't find out very much about this church, probably just because they're so small, but it's hard to get any research done unless you just like look through their own records. But so anyway, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if something happens like the Kirtland Temple. So let's move on to Community of Christ, because the thing about it is, we need that land too. So we basically have this land down here. And like I said, I think the Independence Visitor Center would be temple number 13. And then Church of Christ Temple Lot has the land for this temple, maybe a little bit for these other ones. But Community of Christ, they own a bunch of this land right here, which we would need for the rest of the temple complex. And then possibly over here with the auditorium, I'm not sure. But we would need this too. And so we would also be interested in like the spiral temple, like the land that the spiral temple is on. You see right over here, this would be part of the complex. So I, earlier on in my channel, I had got the opportunity to interview the former president of the Council of the 12 Apostles of Community of Christ, Linda L. Booth. So if you're new to the channel, you may want to watch that interview. It's really, really interesting. But we talked about, the younger generation in their church and how, like, even her own children, she was talking about how they're exploring just kind of like doing church from home and not really belonging to any one denomination. And she seemed to think like that was like a cool idea. You just have to watch the interview. But we have some updates with Community of Christ. So they have this part of their website that's about their finances. It looks a little bit different from times past. Like they have this question and answer page that's new. And it seems to be there to address the fallout of the sale of the Kirtland Temple and the sites in Nauvoo and all the other assets that they sold to the church. And let me just show you a few of the highlights. Okay, so how long will the proceeds from the sale last? So how long will all this money that they got from the Kirtland Temple and the other stuff, how long is that going to last them? Sale proceeds invested in endowments will generate annual income in perpetuity. Income from other sources like worldwide mission tithes does not continue in perpetuity. As stated in the presiding bishopric report, worldwide mission tithes has been declining as the number of contributors declines. Okay, so they have a good chunk of money right now, but future income, it looks like it's not going to be good because their membership is declining, or the tithes from that membership is declining. Current income and expense projections indicate the church has approximately 5 years to develop additional contributors, so more tithe payers, and other sources of income. If the church is not collectively successful in developing additional contributors and new sources of income, then a projected budget reduction of approximately $1.3 million will be required in 2030. So I guess the clock is ticking for them, and they got to make some moves to avoid that from happening. But, you know, what happens at that point if they're not successful? Will they have to sell? Will they have to sell this land over here? And I'm sure that our church would buy it. I'm sure that they would. I'm sure the church would buy the auditorium. Maybe in the millennium, they're going to build the new Jerusalem. Maybe the auditorium would become the new conference center. Maybe it would be expanded. Maybe it would be renovated. Or maybe it would be torn down because it looks like this would also be on temple land, potentially. I don't know. Okay, let's continue. There's some more. Will world church leaders sell the auditorium and temple in independence? At this time, and I think that's a key phrase right there, at this time, world church leaders are not considering a sale of the auditorium and temple in independence. There are explorations occurring of how to use the auditorium, in particular, to generate additional income through various rental uses to offset a portion of the cost of operations of this large facility. So it's interesting that they didn't make like a definitive no. We are not going to sell them. That's never going to happen, or like anything like that. They just say at this time, as though they could plausibly be sold if things don't change. Why was this sale of historic assets necessary? Community of Christ is part of a larger cultural reality that is impacting religious institutions and the people who have historically provided the most significant financial support. This means many religious organizations are making difficult decisions about how they can best use all their assets to support mission now and in the future. Like other church denominations and service organizations, Community of Christ is exploring creative ways to convey and live our message and mission in rapidly changing contexts. Yeah, things are changing, not just in Community of Christ, but throughout, I would say, Christianity and beyond, even other religions outside of Christianity. Ensuring the church is able to pursue its transforming mission for years to come is the responsibility of the World Church Leadership Council. The trajectory of decreasing world mission tithes and increasing expenses meant that in 2025, the church was looking at drastic reductions in ministries and services. So had they not sold the Kirtland Temple and everything else, it would have meant drastic reductions in ministries and services. And maybe that's going to be something that happens in 2030 and afterwards. All right, continuing. This included the possibility of losing 1/3 of current employees and eliminating major services and ministries that support the global mission of the church. The sale was a choice to invest in the church's future story, trusting the Holy Spirit to lead us into fulfilling God's purposes for the church if we faithfully respond. Okay. So this sale, Does this solve our financial challenges? No. The sale does not cover the projected decline in world mission tithes for the long term. However, it replaces income lost for the intermediate term and provides time for missional and financial strategies to generate additional income for the future. See graph below. In addition, the sale proceeds will help sustain the operations, witness, and ministries of the temple for future generations by increasing the annual income available for the temple endowment. So, yeah, that's not good. The orange line is projected expenses, which are going up and up and up and up. This is from 2025 to 2034. And projected income, I guess that would be just total, all revenue, goes down. Well, no, it kind of like dips a little bit, and then it kind of comes back up a tiny bit. It's basically flatlined, I guess. But the expenses are going up. I think that was all that I had highlighted. So yes, the church is coming back to Jackson County, Missouri. Not the entire church. That's something that some people teach on YouTube and in books, that the entirety of the church is coming to Jackson County. And that's not true either. That's something that has also been talked about time and time again. I have it up here. Well, you can look here yourself. Yeah, here it is. It's on row 20. The entire church still has to come to Jackson County. No, they don't. But at some point, church headquarters will move. At some point, the Independence Visitor Center will be converted into a temple. At some point, we will obtain this temple land and that temple land. At some point, this will become a reality. And that's what they were trying to do in the late 60s under President David O. McKay. They were trying to prepare for that. So we're living in exciting times. For more, I have a playlist called New Jerusalem, so you can go check that out. And you may want to spend some time here. Quotes, common misconceptions from row 19 until row 26. These are all misconceptions having to do with the New Jerusalem. It's not based on opinion. These are direct quotes from church leadership. And that's what we should go with, not our internal logic or best guesses. Let's go with where the truth comes from when it comes to spiritual truth, and that's through prophets and apostles. Okay, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.